Hello and welcome. Welcome to What's Alive. What's Alive is a series that Bella and I started about a year ago, sometime last year. I was looking through our old YouTube videos and I found a bunch of videos that we had titled What's Alive and started to make a playlist for them. And so the purpose of this series, you've probably been hearing us say What's Alive, or the series is What's Alive. And the importance behind this series is to really tune into the energy that is alive presently now. So we're tuning into the macrocosm and the microcosm, the infinitesimal and the infinite. We are allowing ourselves to tap into the holographic universe where everything is linked. The big, the small, our personal lives, the collective, everything is linked. So there's probably something that you can take out of what we say today that is going to directly relate to you and impact you or resonate with you, because everyone is connected. So the fact that it's coming through us, coming out of us, and being recognized by us means that, it's alive in the field and other people are being activated by that as well. So basically, what's alive is a calling out of what's in the field. So before we kind of get into more of the intuitive feeling into of all of this, I think it's important for us to start at the beginning, where what are we using to feel into what's alive? And we've often said, and this was a term that Bella used a while ago, bridging the gap. We're bridging the gap between all of these systems: astrology, gene keys, human design, Ching, all of them can be entered into that entity individually. No one in Ching needs to know anything about gene keys, human design, or astrology. Nobody in one of the other ones needs to know about any of the other ones. However, when you do become multilingual, bilingual, what is this, quadlingual, the 4 different systems? Yeah, when you become able to understand the language, you start to pull out, the underlying essence of it, because human design came through Ra, his person, his filter. Gene keys came through Richard, his person, his filter. Astrology, I don't know who is the founder of astrology. Do you know? There is someone who is the founder of astrology. I'm not sure who it is. And then we have I Ching, which I apologize for not knowing who started it, but they're super old systems, and these ones are relatively new. So but Bella, did you want to come in and kind of bridge the gap for us and introduce us to these different amazing systems and why anybody should care about them?
I mean, for us, bridging the gap is the most normal thing in the world, because the way that we see things, we are a synthesizer and we are seeing things and we are always including something more. And who knows 2 years from now what more we're going to include. What I realize is that is not how everybody thinks. And I know that in the Gene Key community, I'm the human design girl sometimes. And for sure in the human design community, I'm the Gene Key girl. I was speaking to somebody I haven't spoken to for 5 or 6 years, and we were kind of starting human design back long ago together, and we hadn't spoken, and he's like, yeah, that's what they call you. They are not really angry with you because you are kind of mixing the systems. They just see you as that, like you're already a lost soul kind of thing. So but that's good, because a lot of other people have had those projection on them because they were certified somehow in human design and they have had to give back their certification. And I have not had those projections on me. And I think that there's just something with Unlock Your Design and the work we do that there is no question. Like no one is really going to question us, why are you mixing the systems? Because we show up and it's already there, like you say, in the language. It's there in the approach. It's there in how we breathe and how we move. So, and for me, that's been the thing where I, like, a little bit stupidly, maybe I've done it even in the Gene Key community. I haven't understood why we don't look at the like the circuitry or the mechanics, or why people in the Gene Keys don't know that right now, for example, we have the 41 and the 30 that are connecting. The sun is in the 30 and Mercury is in the 41. And this is this fuel to feel, and where words need to become deep. Like this is super powerful that those two are connecting, the sun and the Mercury right now. And when you look at an astrology chart, you're not going to see that there's any aspect between the 41 and the 30 in the way the wheel works, but in the body graph they connect. So for me to be able to look at things, and also I think the other thing is, we have seen people that become stuck in systems, and then that's the only thing they look at and the only language they speak. And I feel like both you and I, we have been seeking freedom. It's just our makeup. We have a lot of individual circuitry or integration channels. So the way that we decide to show up and the way that we assimilate, I think it's always kind of freedom seeking. And that's also why we don't want to be boxed in by one system or one teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these systems give you the potential to like know yourself, but also to put words on maybe what you're sensing energetically. When you're growing up, you don't know why you're feeling the feelings you're feeling, or why you're thinking what you're thinking, or why you're drawn or pulled to the things that you are. You just know that you are. And I think that because for a while society wanted to homogenize, we go to school, we have to sit in our boxes and learn the things. Some people were pulled to different things. I don't know why this is coming out of my open throat, but it is. People were drawn to different things. And here it's kind of that reclaiming of your innocence and who you were before you were kind of conditioned by the world. And this whole deconditioning process is, in order to know what the highest expression is, you kind of need to understand these different components working. That's why Richard, geniusly enough, brought in the frequency bands. Human design didn't have the frequency bands. He just described the way that the energy worked, the gates, and how they were expressed. And Richard saw this potential of growth and expansion, where you can travel into the shadow and mine out that gift, and maybe taste the city every now and then, where that potential wasn't there. It's almost like some of the language and verbiage in human design sounded really limiting, like, oh shit, I have the 26, I'm like a salesperson and I'm gonna like trick people, or like, didn't always sound great. But the way that Richard was able to articulate it allows you to connect into, why is this a positive thing, so that you could love yourself? Because that was the whole mission of Ra. He wanted people to love themselves. He wore the hat, love yourself, So I think that this gives us the potential to accept and embrace all parts of ourselves, and know that we're working towards being the best version of ourselves. And we don't need to judge ourselves for who we were before. And now we get the permission slip to kind of be who we've always been, but maybe like held back a little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to say something about the geometry of what we're doing. So the way that we're looking at human design and gene keys, it's that it's the same transmission or the same source of transmission. If human design came in 1987, and then Richard was working with Ra for more than 10, 12 years and really absorbing all the material, and then he, out of human design, he started to create the frequency bands and the gene keys. And I have several audios where Ra is saying, he's speaking about the UK and their gene keys, and gene keys and he's saying the word gene keys, and it's part of human design state, and he speaks about it kind of like the UK part of human design. So it was the same system for a long time. And then I don't think that any of us have the exact details. Maybe Richard has spoken, to some people or to the ambassadors a little bit more of what really happened. But that breaking them apart was not something that was intended from the beginning. And possibly it was because Rod wanted people to be really just having his system first before flying out too far, which is valid in its own sense. But what I'm saying always is that when this is something I can be criticized for, of course, but when we don't recognize human design as gene key people, and I think in the heart I'm a gene key person, I feel like we're missing something. And sometimes I even say that we're missing the legs of the table, because we have something that's really valued, and you can put all these things on the table and you can do so many things with the table. But if you don't recognize the legs of it, there is still something important in the geometry that I feel is missing, that is going to have you understand so much more what you can do with that table and what kind of table it is. So for us in Unlock Your Design, those systems are here to go together. The human design shows you how the energy moves in the body between you and other people. The gene key shows you this amazing journey, which is the golden path, that has those pathway and quantum pathways that you can travel in. And then it also, like Ashley was saying, give you the frequency. And then astrology, with a wheel. The more that we have done this work in Unlock Your Design, probably most of you have heard about portals of deconditioning. We have walked the wheel with a transit, 64 gates, 64 hexagrams around the wheel, the mandala, the astrological mandala. We've walked it for several years now. And the more we walk it, the more we realize that some of the gates are Pisces gates, and then some of them are Aries gates. And we start to see the geometry. And we also see, we only know about programming partners in the gene keys when they are completely opposite. But we can start to see that when something is really strongly activated, like this week with the full moon, in the fixed signs, there is a very powerful energy that has a different specific quality. And similarly, when they're mutable or cardinal signs. So there is something with the geometry in space. And here we don't speak about the body or the journey we can do in our own lives and our own relationships. No, we speak about that big that we don't even know who was the founder of, and something that's been there for thousands of years. And even what I'm feeling now, what we are doing with lunar alchemy and John, it's going into the elements. And the work I have done with Sergio Arboleda, which is a Colombian astrologer that is also going in to do numerology together with astrology, together with the I Ching, together with the chess player. Like, he's synthesizing all the system. He's a 6-2, and he's Pisces and Virgo in his ascendant and his life's work. So it's like this perfect thing of the system that goes so far out and at the same time is so precise, which Ashley is doing for Unlock Your Design with her Virgo qualities. So for me, what we are seeing here is that those systems are all coming together. And even sometimes, like today, I went back to the I Ching, to the Spanish translation that Sergio has done, and it said for the 30 that it's connection, because it's actually called adhesion or something like that in the original I Ching. But the word that he chose was connection. And I realized that the fire is connection. The fire needs the wood. There's always a connection. The 30 needs an object of desire. And it's something that is a connection. And then there can be lightness about it, or there can be like, you don't know until after. That's the whole experimental way. So even now, after so many years, I go to the I Ching and I have a completely new understanding of desire that actually was kind of keeping me in a loop, even from our portals of deconditioning call on Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Depending on what I listen to. So that's the geometry. And the last thing I'm going to say, what do we do with it in Unlock Your Design? It's to embody it. That's the only thing that we think matters. So everything we do, it's often in a playful way or in a very deep way when we work in smaller groups or one-on-one, because we think that all these systems, when they are just like orgasms for the mind, it's not helpful. So it is about finding ways, and the archetypes have been a huge creation of ours. And it's not even something we've really decided. We said we want to have a door for each transit. And then it became those archetypes that came out and said, I'm not hexagram 30 or gene key 30 or gate 30. I'm the fire starter. And suddenly they started to speak to us. And together we've been developing them now for several spirals around the wheel. So that's the universe and what underpins the universe for us. And, if you take away one of the things I said, there's almost like that table can't stand. And we know that there are going to be more tables or more legs on the table. There's going to be, the geometry is always evolving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of you are doing that with like NLP or tapping, or, you're taking the things that you've learned and you're weaving it. You're like, okay, if I could just see a profile, we're going to zoom in on this, and we're going to work with healing this, because the whole purpose of all of this stuff, it's like, love yourself and come back to your wholeness. That's it. It's like, once you can be in your naturalness, that's going to be expressed in the world, and you are, you're doing your part, you're doing your purpose. And I think that these systems, like, we want to make it accessible. And that's why we bring through the archetypes, because like Bella said, they speak. There's a personification versus when you're in the book and you're reading it and it seems kind of like abstract and like, how do I talk to it? How do I find it within me? And Carolyn Miss or Mice, or however you say her name, she did like the language of the archetypes. And she's one of the people that use young. I don't even say, I'm like reading them, but I don't know actually how to say their names because I'm just reading them. So it's like all these archetypes, we're able to personify them. So we're bridging the gap, and through the act of bridging the gap, we've created these archetypes. It's like we're marrying them, we're unifying them, we're uniting them. And that's what creates the archetypes. And that's what you're doing. if you were to take Gene Keys and merge it with NLP, it's your own child. It's your own child that came through you that you're like, all right, I'm using this. And nobody else is going to use it the same way that you do, even if there's another NLP practitioner that is doing the same thing as you. It comes through you uniquely, just like Gene Keys came through Richard uniquely. And all of these should be sent back to the source for sure, because it is intellectual property, basically, that it came through your filter. The idea and the inspiration came through, other things that they've consumed, but once they've consumed the system, like, okay, astrology, I'm eating this. Okay, Gene Keys, I'm eating this. Human design, I'm eating this. There's some alchemy that's happening inside that only happens with what you have inside of you. And it's going to come out. That alchemy is going to produce something that comes out through you that nobody else can do. So, I mean, why is this important? Because you don't know until you consume something what it's going to trigger in you, and if it's going to land, and if it's going to be that missing piece that then transforms your whole way of being, and then doing, and then sharing, and then connecting, because we all hold keys for other people, and other people hold keys for us. Like, just like the 64 doors is unlocking this potential in the archetypes, you each have this key that is meant to be shared and not hoarded. You're not here to hoard what you've discovered. You're here to share it and unlock things for other people so that they can experience the freedom that you're seeking. We want connection and we want freedom at the same time. We want unity and we want sovereignty at the same time. It's hard. It's hard being human sometimes, but I feel like when you can be anchored and confident and competent in yourself, you can share that with the world, and you don't feel like you need to, no, my freedom, it cannot be taken away from me. We just need to all come to peace with who we are. And these systems kind of allow us to do that. And then you get to create with what's inside of you and share it with the world.
Yeah. And, I'm just thinking about one thing that's a bit funny. There was one person, I think she was doing Psych K or whatever that system is called, that a lot of people are doing, and even in the Jinky community. And she was doing some weird connection saying like, oh, the culture is the root chakra, or like the way that she was connecting the chakras to the spheres, it completely didn't make any sense at all. I even think I think I sent a screenshot to Richard and his business partner. I was saying like, this is not okay. Why is she doing this? And I guess in a way that was a reaction. And I think that the beauty here is that there are people that are going to resonate with you. And I was taking this example also in our BBD, Business by Design container today, that somebody in the Gene Key group was saying, oh, I've been contemplating the Gene Keys for 2 years and I give sessions and I want to give some free sessions. And, I'm going to text you private, my free session and my offerings. And I don't know, like there's so many ways of doing this. And there are some things that like, I will never resonate with either of those two things I said. And I might even react and be like, this is wrong. And then I I laugh and I bite my tongue, because I'm like, there are people that resonate with that. Something's going to come out with you contemplating the culture in the throat chakra or the root chakra. It doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, this is even the way that I see sidereal. That has been like a big topic this year. And I'm very, for now, I'm feel very sure about how I relate to it. But I just see you can't really go wrong with starting to contemplate your sidereal either. At the end of the day, it's going to maybe take you like on a way around, but wasn't that then what you desired to do in this life? What the script, what the design, the bigger design was already decided to take you on that journey. So for me, in this Gene Key of lightness that we're in now, don't be so afraid of failure. We have the dynamism, the fire of the fire starter, and it says it might burn, but it might be worth it, And who
cares if someone judges you or somebody says that it's wrong? Like, I think that this culture of like acceptance and recognition hinders your own creative genius and spark. And it's like, sometimes there needs to be trailblazers, and you are going to be the lone nut in a way for a while, and then it spreads. But utilize the fire to spread the fire, like create that wildfire. But you got to be the first one to light it up and be like, okay, I'm doing this. So I feel like this is almost like a motivational kind of speech for you to like allow yourself to kind of give in a little bit to your desire and to that spark that's saying, I want to create and innovate with this. Like, I want to do something with it. And I know that there's more to this. If you feel like you're in one of these systems and you're like, there's more to this. You have the key somewhere. You have something inside of you that is going to unlock something that nobody has thought of before. That nobody has.
And it's amazing if you want to do the Gene Keys program or you want to come into our containers and do our programs, but don't think that that's a requirement for you starting to share your genius in the world. It's not. It's more for the fun of it. Come in and do it with like-minded people.
Yeah.
But to wait forever and postpone. And again, we are on the cusp now, the 6th line of the 30 going into the 55, which is, it only has one higher frequency, which is freedom. And I think that that's what Ashley, I mean, sometimes when she speaks, I feel like she's allowing, especially in our community, I feel like she's giving people, like she's allowing them freedom. And sometimes I'm like, but why do people need that? And when a 5-1 gives you allows you to be free, there is something activating in that. Like it's like they are writing a code of that 5th line in you that you didn't think you had, and then you realize that you're already a leader, that you already have a voice. So I have seen that so many times, Ashley. Powerful. And it's not everybody that it ignites, but every time there are a few individuals, they're like, thank you, Ashley, like I really need to hear that, and everything shifted.
I know. I don't know why I say what I say sometimes, but sometimes I find myself judging myself or looking back, or I look at you and see like, how is she reacting to what I'm saying? Because it seems so out on left field, but I just have to trust sometimes in the divine unfolding of it. But yeah, and I think that everybody it's about expression and getting it to the throat. And you can tell, it's so sad sometimes to see the people who are parroting. It's like you hear Ra in them. You sense Richard in them. And you're like, but that's imitating. That's not innovating.
And the North Node is an 8. The influencer has its own unique voice. Parenting is the worst you can do right now.
Yeah. And there's no judgment, because sometimes, I mean, there is a little judgment. I feel bad because I feel like that's not them, because that used to be me. I used to struggle with finding my own unique expression and voice because I wanted recognition for knowing what I knew. Oh, I know this, because you get, kudos. Yay, you're in school. Gold star for you. You knew what I was teaching and you could parrot it. Great. But now I'm realizing more and more, it has nothing to do with like, oh, great, I learned the system, I mastered the system, and now I'm going to go share that. You're just being a truth warrior, where you resonating with that truth and you're taking it and you're sharing it and spreading it with the world. It's like you're a missionary, right? But there's some things that come deep within your soul that are sourced from you that actually have a voice that wants to be spoken, and they're planted as a seed inside of you to then share through your voice. And I think that the more you work with these systems to decondition and you focus on yourself first, the more you're opening up your Ka channel to like really get that strength, that core stability, that open heart, so that it can get to your throat and be in its purest expression, instead of convoluted with all of these, like, I really just want recognition. And can someone leave a comment that says you're doing well, you're doing amazing. And you're already doing amazing, but you don't need the recognition for it. You don't need the approval for it. You just need to give it to yourself and be like, yeah, it's ready. You can feel it rising in you, wanting to come out. So don't stifle yourself anymore. I wonder.
The other thing with what we were saying is like, that it needs to come to the throat, but the way to the throat is not from the mind to the throat. It's like when Ashley is saying, the body comes first. So the embodiment, that's when you hear that things aren't grounded, when it's only an understanding that comes out to your throat. So you could just be a head walking around.
Yeah,
who is
a lollipop.
You?
It's a lollipop. You're like, you're not embodied, and you're just a stick or a floating head. Yeah.
And that's sometimes what I felt this year. I mean, we're soon going to wrap up, but I felt really, I wonder if people can feel me, because I felt like I was reduced to voice on a screen. And when I tapped into Donnie Epstein's work with networks chiropractic, or the person who developed network chiropractic and now is working with Kundalini and Shakti, the 12 stages of healing. When I came in contact with his work, maybe 6-8 months ago, it was this like release that this is what I've done forever. And at the same time, I was like, people can't really feel my energy if they just see me from this part up. And at the same time, the trust that there is something that shines through when a person is working to become more embodied, to become more of what we are in all the levels. And how we in Undecorated Design, we speak about the animal body, the human heart, the creator mind, the connection to spirit, the connection to soul. That whole geometry of what we are, the more home you are in your own geometry, the more impact what you're role modeling in the world is going to have.
feel complete. Well, I mean, thank you for joining us today for What's Alive, and so much more than just what Bridging the Gap can do for you or what it's about. It has nothing to do with like the system and formula of how do you bridge the gap between all these systems. It really has to do with like, what is unlocking for you? What's the potential here? And, harness it to really allow your true self to come alive and activate and come into the world. Because we need more people doing that nowadays. We need less parrots and more trailblazers. So, and more heretics. Where are my heretics at? Come out. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Or maybe tomorrow. Have a wonderful weekend if we don't see you tomorrow. And